Good day, everyone, and a warm welcome to this module, Medical Negligence, provided by Leeds. So I have my camera on so that you can just see that I am not a robot and that I'm actually a human being. And you can also see that I am a grandma or a gogo, so I have years of experience. So I hope I teach you something in this module, and I really hope that you will enjoy it. Medical law is the most interesting legal area or part of the law that you will ever find. Why do I say that? It is because medical law overlaps with the law of contracts, the law of dealet, the law of evidence, constitutional law, and then there is a huge part on ethics. Sometimes the answers are not just black and white, and we cannot just follow legislation, but sometimes some ethical questions need to be answered. So I am going to take you through this journey, and I want to congratulate you that you have joined the team, and I really hope that you benefit from it. Just from the very beginning, this is not an easy module. It is not difficult, the content per se, but we are going to expect a lot of you to do self-reading and to work on your own. So you need to plan, but I'll come back to that now. I'm going to share my PowerPoint, so you will not see me again, you will just hear me. I'll say, there we go. So this module that you are doing is medical law practice. It is, as I've said, it's a lot of information, but remember, we do not go into the practical side. So this is more just theory, but you will see what I mean as we carry on. So who am I? I am Professor Magda Slabbert. I am a professor at the University of South Africa, UNISA, where I taught ethics for a very long time, legal philosophy, etc. But I have a passion for medical law. All my research is in medical law, and my doctorate was also in medical law. So now you know more or less who I am. You've seen my face. You've seen that I am nearer to 100 than to my birth date. But yes, so I would like to know who you are. This is not compulsory, but the facilitator will like it if you introduce yourself on the forum. Very short, just say you are so and so, and you are an attorney, and you're working for a law firm, or you are a health professional, etc., just so that the facilitators have an idea, more or less, who the audience is. But as I say, it's not compulsory. You don't have to do it. You can also ask questions on the forum. But if you have specific questions, you are welcome to email me, and you see my email address there. You are also allowed to ask questions to each other on the forum concerning the activities that you have to do, but at the end, you have to do your own work. Then for all administrative matters, you have to contact Grace Makuru, the same person who handled your registration. So general matters, there will be a schedule on your website, and you have to check the schedule continuously, because on the schedule it will be indicated when what is expected of you. You will also see that the facilitator will be online once a week, but it is not like a Teams meeting. In other words, the facilitator is there, and the facilitator will answer the questions that you post on the forum, but you will not be able to engage with the facilitator like a Teams or a Zoom meeting. If you find that your questions are not answered on the forum, or even the facilitator, I work very closely with the facilitator, you can email me. The email address was on the previous slide. On your schedule, you will also see announcements. That is where the facilitator will add some interesting things. For example, if there is a new court case that we feel you should take notice of, it will be published there. Or any other announcements that we want to make or draw your attention to, you will find that under announcements. Okay, let's get more practical. You will have to write a test 1. Test 1 is based on all the theory, but not the extra material or the portfolios. It will become clear just now. Test 1 is multiple choice, and it contributes 20% to your final mark. So test 1, multiple choice. So you will have to go through all the theory. The theory meaning the information, the written information under each topic on your website. So you will go on your own time, according to your own pace, through the theory, the written material on your websites. And once you feel that you have now mastered it or you know what it is all about, then you can go on the website and you do test 1. On your schedule, there will be a date when test 1 will open, and then also a date when test 1 will close. In other words, there will be a number of days in which each of you can do your test 1. You're not going to do it all together. You will do it on your own time. When you feel ready, you will log in, you will do the multiple choice, and that will contribute to 20% of your final mark. I just emphasize again, it is only based on the theory that you have online, the written parts of each unit. You do not, if we post extra court cases or extra articles on the announcements, you do not have to study that for test 1. And you do not have to study the activities that you are going to do for the portfolios for test 1. Test 1 is only based on the theory in each unit. Then for the other 80%, you are going to do activities and then upload it as a portfolio in PDF format. You will have to plan your time. So I'm going to say that over and over again, because the biggest problem with this module is your time planning, because every week you will get an activity and you have to do that activity. And then after 3 activities, you will then upload a portfolio. But if you fall behind, then the work is going to become a nightmare because we expect a lot of reading from you. Okay, I will elaborate on that just now. As I've said at the beginning, be active on the forum if you want to, and you can ask your fellow participants if you're not sure about the question or where to find some information. But at the end of the day, you have to do your own work. And then I'm going to say this also over and over again. You have now paid and registered for this module, so do not give up. I know that lawyers sometimes have a lot of work to do. They have to prepare for court cases. Maybe you didn't plan that that was going to happen. So don't give up. Then rather email Grace or the facilitator and ask for extension, etc. But then you will have to have a good reason. But ask for help before you just give up. Okay, so the activities. The activities will contribute 80% of your final mark, and therefore you have to put in a huge effort. Test 1 is 20%, the portfolios is 80%, and the two together is your final mark then in order to get your certificate. The questions that we are asking in the activities, those are broader than the study guide, meaning you will not necessarily find the answer in your study material, the theory, the written parts of each unit. That when you study that for test one, that will then give you information to understand what we are asking in the activities. So the activities are much broader. The activities are usually based on a court case or an academic article. And you do not have to study this for test one. So you will get activity one in a week. The following week, you will receive activity two. The following week, you will receive activity three. Please do the activities in the week that is posted. Otherwise, you are going to run out of time. But you do not upload the activity once you are finished with it. So in week one, you will do activity one and put it aside in a file. The following week, you will do activity two. You will put it in the same file. The following week, you will do activity three, and you will also put it in the same file. And then you combine activities 1, 2, and 3 in a PDF document, and that is called your Portfolio 1. Please remember to have a title page so that we can just see who you are. So I say again, activities 1, 2, and 3 becomes one PDF document, and that is called Portfolio 1. And please remember to number the questions very clearly so that the facilitator who will be marking online can see this is activity 1, this is activity 2, this is activity 3. When you submit Portfolio 1, then you will also receive activity 4. Sorry, I'm just taking a sip of water. The week after that, you will receive activity 5 and then activity 6. And you follow the same process you did with 1, 2, and 3. You combine activities 4, 5, and 6 into one PDF document, and that becomes Portfolio 2, which you will then upload on the system, and the facilitator will mark it online. And then, as I've said, ask if you need help. The facilitator will post the relevant reading material for each activity on the website. But if you struggle with that in any way, please ask for help. If you need help, do not just give up and ask us. We can help you. We can provide you with whatever you need. Okay, so the portfolios. As I've said, Portfolio 1 is activity 1, 2, and 3. Portfolio 2 will be activities 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so how do we assess your work, or how is it marked? Each activity is assessed in total, meaning we are not just giving marks pedantically. We also look at the overall portfolio. And what we are looking for is, did you understand the question? Did you do what was expected of you? In other words, did you answer the question? But then in each activity is basically based on a principle or some or other topic in medical law that we are focusing on. And we want to see whether you understood the principle that we tested. And then, of course, generally, we look at your work. Did you put in an effort, or did you just rush through it the evening before submission? So we want to see whether you've put in an effort, whether you have actually read the prescribed material, and whether you enjoyed the assignment. And last, we are looking at whether you are proud of your own work. And saying that is, remember, this is not a prescribed module for you to get an LLB or some or other degree. You signed in for this module out of your own free will, and you paid for it. And therefore, we want to encourage you to enjoy it, put in an effort, and be proud of your work. Because at the end of the module, when you pass, you should be extremely, extremely proud of your work, because the standard of this module is quite high. And as I've said, we expect a lot of you. So if you pass it, you must be proud of yourself immensely. Okay, the study material. The study material or the theory that you will find online and the work that you have to study for test 1. The theory of each unit is not an original work. In other words, it's a combination of work from different experts, meaning that I didn't write the material from my head. I used the following sources that I'm going to discuss with you. And that is just what is meant by it is not original work. In other words, I did research out of sources when I compiled these study units. So the books that you might need and that could become in handy are the following books that I'm going to discuss. But please note, it is not prescribed, meaning you don't have to buy them and you don't have to study them for test 1. But if you envisage to practice as a medical negligence lawyer or a legal advisor, etc., these books will come in extremely handy. And if you want more information than what I am giving to you in this module, then I suggest you go back to these sources. The first one is Carstens and Peermyn. Those are the authors. Foundational Principles of South African Medical Law. It was published by LexisNexis in 2007. Unfortunately, the book is not available anymore. I know that it is in the process of being updated, but I do not know when it will be available. But what I suggest is that on your social media or wherever, maybe ask a question whether someone has a second-hand one for you to buy. This is an excellent book. It's a thick book. It's quite an expensive book, and it's quite overwhelming. But it is all the information you will ever need. But as I've said, it is not available anymore, and therefore you should try to get hold of a second-hand one. The second bullet is Dye and McQueen Mason. They wrote the book Bioethics, Human Rights and Health Law, Principles and Practice. It is published by Juta and it was updated in 2020. So it is quite recent, extremely helpful, extremely interesting, especially for their emphasis on human rights. And yes, it's a nice book to have because it also indicates the ethical problems that we experience in the medical law field. The third bullet is Moodley, Medical Ethics, Law and Human Rights and South African Perspective. That is published by Van Skyke in 2011. I know there is an update that will be published soon. But yes, excellent book, especially for ethical questions and human rights again. The last bullet on this slide is McQueen Mason and Dada, The A to Z of Medical Law. This book, I suggest you put in an effort to get hold of, because that book, to have it on your desk, is a quick reference. It's a quick reference book if you need information on a certain topic. For example, you want information and you want to know what the law is concerning abortions. Then you will go to you will see abortion, and you will be guided to go to the Choice on Termination of Pregnancy Act, etc. So it is a quick reference. It is not so expensive, and if at all, try to get hold of that book. But remember, those are not prescribed. Then Van der Heever and Lawrenson, Expert Evidence in Clinical Negligence, published by JUTA in 2015. If you are a lawyer and you are practicing in medical negligence cases, or you are going to, that book is a must, an absolute must. It is a thin book. It is not an expensive book, but it is excellent because it explains exactly who is an expert. How do you negotiate with an expert? What do you want from an expert? How to prep your expert for the court case? It is indispensable if you are practicing as a medical negligence lawyer. John Sainer, Senior Counsel. This is a loose leaf publication, Medical Malpractice in South Africa, and it is updated every year by LexisNexis. This is like a file then with loose leaves, but excellent, beyond excellent, because there's a lot of examples of documents, how to compile the documents, etc. So if you are in a law firm, as I've said, it is very expensive, but if the law firm can buy it and then it is updated yearly, excellent, because he also discusses the most relevant issues in medical malpractice, the court cases, as well as practice, because he's a senior counsel, he knows practice, so he gives guideline on how to handle a medical malpractice or medical negligence case. Potgieter is the quantum of damages in bodily and fatal injury cases, a quick guide, the quantum. So if you practice and you want to, let's say you practice and do a lot of RAF, road accident fund cases, or medical negligence cases, and you want to see more or less how the quantum work, then you will go to that book, and it was published in 2019 from JUTA. And then the last one is Ian Dutton. He's also a practicing advocate, and the title of his book is The Practitioner's Guide to Medical Malpractice in South Africa, and it was published in 2015. What is excellent about that book is at the back, there are examples of particulars of claim to guide you to draw up the particulars of claim when you are involved with litigation concerning medical negligence. And then lastly, which is there in red on your slide, remember there are booklets. If you go to the website of the Health Professions Council of South Africa, where all doctors must register, then you will see there are booklets, and each booklet covers a topic. For example, there's a booklet on confidentiality, what is expected concerning confidentiality. There is a booklet on informed consent. So these are all sources that can help you when you prepare a case, or where you could possibly find answers or guidance on how to build a case when you are anticipating litigation in terms of alleged medical malpractice or medical negligence. Okay, so what are the outcomes? What are we going to focus on in this module? These are the topics that we're going to discuss, and each of those topics is in a separate unit, and in that unit you will find the theory, and that theory you have to study before you do test 1. So firstly, our first unit that you have to study is the Constitution and its impact on healthcare and access to healthcare services. Then we're going to look at the legal position or the doctor-patient or patient-hospital relationship. Then the third bullet is the most important part of this whole module, because there we will focus on medical negligence per se, and we will look on how it impacts on civil and criminal litigation. In other words, I'm going to teach you the test for medical negligence, how to build a case when there are cases of alleged medical negligence, etc. After that, we are going to look at the grounds of justification. In other words, we're going to see that if you appear for the defense, what could possibly be the grounds of justification for why something went wrong in that medical scenario. And then we are going to look on at the influence of other legislation on the practice of medicine, or just other legislation in the field of healthcare. And then there are some practical exercises. The practical exercises are included in one of the units. Those are case scenarios of possible medical negligence cases. We do not provide model answers. We just want you to see what a case could look like, and then each one of you must think for yourself, how would you have handled the case, etc. So all of this are relevant for your test one, and it is the written part, the theory part of every unit on your website. Okay, there is a quote from Mediclinic versus Vermeulen. So first of all, you will see that it is a case that happened in a private hospital, Mediclinic, and the claimant was Vermeulen, but it went to the Supreme Court of Appeal, and therefore Mediclinic appealed against Mr. Vermeulen. I'm going to read you the quote. We should be doing a disservice to the community at large if we were to impose liability on hospitals and doctors for everything that happens to go wrong. Doctors would be led to think more of their own safety than the good of their patients. Initiative will be stifled and confidence shaken. A proper sense of proportion requires us to have regard to the conditions in which hospitals and doctors have to work. We should insist on due care for the patient at every point, but we must not condemn as negligence that which is only a misadventure. Okay, why did I use this quote, and what am I saying about it? The first thing that you must remember is that if something goes wrong in a hospital or while under treatment of a doctor, not everything will be attributed to negligence. In other words, a bad outcome is not per se negligence. You must remember this, and I'm going to emphasize this again and again. When you go to hospital, let's say you are a diabetic and there's something wrong with your foot, and then eventually when you leave hospital, your leg is amputated just below the knee. It is not automatically medical negligence. In other words, it can just be a bad outcome, or that the doctors had to take the decision to amputate the leg. You have to consider all the facts. It is not necessarily that if something goes wrong, that it is because of negligence. Why do I say that? It's because medicine is not an exact science. All of us as individuals are different. In other words, doctors or hospitals, they cannot know in advance how you will react to anesthetics. Sometimes things happen, or they open you up to remove your kidney, who has there's a cancer tumor in the kidney, but while your body is opened up, they see there's also cancer in the liver, and then they remove that as well. That is not per se medical negligence. It all depends on the fact. So we must look at the facts and then determine whether there was negligence or not. Okay, if you want to see what is happening in the field of medical negligence, it is quite alarming if you go to the website of Medical Brief, and on that website I found the following information. These are the amounts that is paid out by province for medical negligence claims. And I'm not going to read through that, and you don't need to know that. That is just for information. But what I want to show with these numbers is that there is a huge, huge problem in healthcare. There's too many things going wrong, and then there are too many claims. And at some or other stage, a solution is necessary because it cannot go on like this. Let me give some background. In South Africa, we have a National Department of Health, and each year with the budget, an amount is allocated to the National Department of Health under the Minister of Health. But then the National Department of Health will give a certain amount to each of the 9 provinces. In other words, they escalate it down to the provinces. In a province, you have the premier, and then you have the member of the executive committee or member of the executive council. It depends. They vary in their title, the words they use for their title from province to province. So each province will get a huge amount of money, which they must then use for healthcare in that province. Let's take the Eastern Cape, for example. They get a bulk of money. Then they must pay the salaries of the nurses and the doctors in the state sector. They have to pay the cleaners. They have to buy the medicine. They have to buy the equipment, beds, all the medical equipment, etc. In other words, the member of the executive council in a province have to administer the budget for healthcare in that province. Now, if there are medical negligence claims, then that must also be paid out of that budget. So you can just think, let's focus on the Eastern Cape. There were 361 cases with a total cost of 4 billion. In other words, that amount is now taken out of the budget, and that money was supposed to buy medicine, to pay salaries, to buy equipment. But now it must be paid out to court cases of alleged medical negligence. And it is a huge problem, because that is why healthcare is in such a terrible state. It's because so much money goes because of litigation. So this is just background. As I've said, please, you don't have to study the information there. There I've just added as well. So you will see that is the bad picture of what is happening in the health sector. What I want you to do is to go to the South African Law Reform Commission's website, and there I give you the web address, and then look for paper 33 of Project 141. That is based on medical negligence claims. It is extremely interesting, with a lot of information, nearly all the information that I'm going to teach you in this module. The other good thing is at the end of the paper, there are nearly all the court cases which happened through the years in medical negligence cases. But it also indicates the time that these cases take. Some of the cases can take 6 years, 10 years, 16 years. So it is difficult. Medical negligence is difficult. And yes, right from the start, please do not think that you're going to become a millionaire overnight if you start doing medical negligence cases. It takes long. It takes very long. It takes a huge effort and it is extremely expensive. But on the other hand, it is extremely interesting. Okay, also under the Law Reform Commission, look for paper 154, project 141. That is a new project. They are looking at possible changes in the healthcare sector concerning litigation. So you've seen on the previous slide these amounts, and all of us can agree that this is not sustainable. The claims cannot just increase and the amounts paid out being higher and higher. Then all the different departments of health in the different provinces will go bankrupt. They won't have money anymore to buy equipment, to buy medicine or pay salaries. So something needs to be done. So in that paper 154, they suggest maybe one should go and investigate mediation if it is then much cheaper than litigation, or maybe to cap the amounts that one could claim. But those are still discussion documents. In other words, they are starting with the process, and possible legal change might happen in future. Okay, then I've said you can go to the website of Medical Brief, where you will also come across interesting facts in the medico-legal scenario. Then on Corruption Watch, you can see the X-ray, the clinical state of health, the health sector in South Africa. That is just informative if you want to see what is happening generally in the health sector of South Africa. Okay, so that is the end. This was just an introduction, just to sort of indicate to you what we are going to do. I have explained test 1 and the portfolio. So at the end, when we are now completely finished with the module, you would have done a test 1, 20%, a portfolio 1, a portfolio 2, those two together, 80%, and then that is your final mark for this module. So I hope I've motivated you. In the next unit, I will talk to you again. Thank you so much.